Okay, hi everybody. We just sorry for being a bit late.
Hi.
Quick look here at who we got. Looks like we got Aaron, we got Fabian so far. Good. Nina just joined us. Good. Okay. Hi Nina, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much. I'm hoping Dylan's going to join us because he sent me a question on the case study that I responded to, and that kind of prompted me to send out that announcement that I posted last night, um, so everybody could sort of get the benefit from my thoughts on the on calculating the weighted average cost of capital, which was one of the questions in the case. Um, and I wanted to see if those comments had helped him because obviously, he was the one who had the original question on the on that one part of the case. So I wanted to see if that did was of any benefit to him. If it was great. If not, well, no. Okay. Well, I don't see Dylan yet, but let me get to the share squint screen, and I wanna where here we go. Okay, so this is the question section of the case study document that I've got here on a PDF. Hey, Dylan. Good. I'm glad you were able to join us. Did you have a chance to see my response to you and or the announcement I made, which was basically the same information? You had the questions on, determining the cost of debt, the cost of equity, the WACC. Did what I post or what I respond to you help?
I didn't get a chance to look over it yesterday. I was working on it on Tuesday, no, on Monday.
Okay.
And then yesterday I was pretty busy, so I didn't get a chance to work on it anymore.
Okay. Yeah, when you do get a chance, take a look at what I wrote and get back to me and let me know, if you're in pretty good shape with that. This is a little bit of a tough case. If you look at some of these questions uh, on the Taylor Brands case, it's an advanced case. Um, I think a lot of people use this for an MBA level course, so you can rest assured that I'm aware of this and will obviously consider all these things when it comes time to grading. I mean, I don't want to penalize any of you guys because you're not, right up to snuff on every one of these questions. But at the same time, I expect you to do what Dylan did, which is if you got questions or if you admit you're having trouble with some of the questions or want some additional guidance or clarification that you'll ask. Okay, but let's just go through these questions and I'll let you guys pipe up with any questions you might have on them, or or if as we go through them you think you might want to see some additional information, similar to what I did the for Dylan on the cost of capital, which is really addressing, I think, question number three. They're talking about the cost of capital, the required rate of return. Um, but look, I don't want to skip to that just yet. Let's just go through each of these, and then you can pipe up. And if you don't have any really further any further questions on any of this, we can just move on, and I can let you guys go for the day. But I would like to gather as many comments or questions from you folks that I can, either address right away, but more than likely end up posting, additional hints to different questions and stuff that you might have. So let's just go through these real quick and we'll see how we do. So
Uh,
anyway,
I have
I'm
I
sorry.
have a question regarding the announcement that you sent out already,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
that's okay.
yeah,
So you said that we should use a market risk rate of 14.2%.
yep.
When I did the problem, I used a market risk rate of 12.1%. Is that because you've taken the average, I guess, between the common stocks and the small caps?
Yeah, that's a legitimate process. If you respond with a 12.1 market um, market risk rate, then I won't penalize you for it. When I determined all this, I came up with a market risk less the risk-free rate to come up with a specified rate. I think it ended up being 7.1%, and that was how I personally solved the problem. But I did look at some other older um, homework assignments that I had received when I was both teaching this case a year or two ago, and also when I was an academic coach on it too. So I've got several versions, and one of the versions did have 12.1%, and I know the my predecessor, Professor Bacon, had had granted 100% credit on that question. So yeah, so I did make a note of that actually in my notes that I have on the case that 12.1 is legit, and you can use that too. So yeah, so if you use that baby and then you use the capital asset pricing model, you'll end up taking that 12.1 and deducting, I think it was a 7% risk-free rate, right?
4.9%, I think, is what I deducted for the long-term government bonds.
Yes.
And then I got 7.2%
Oh, 7.2. Okay. Yeah.
for the
Yeah,
expected return of the market.
yeah, that's gonna be fine. I'm not gonna well, I didn't, I could have gone a couple different ways with this, and there's even another way to do this that I saw too that I'm just gonna keep to myself unless someone says they're gonna use it. But there's a couple of different ways that this problem has uh, it's cat skinned. Okay. In other words, how it's solved, and I will allow every one of them because they're all legitimate means. There's no one specific way only to do this. But yeah, thanks for mentioning that, baby. And yeah, definitely, if you wanted to use that method, then please go ahead and do so. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. No, not at all. Okay. How about number two, the required return on equity? Okay, I talk about how that's determined. I think in the note, because that was part of the question that Dylan had for me originally. Um, anything further on that you might want to talk about or have me look into? Okay, let's move down then to number three. They're saying estimate Taylor's cost of capital and required rate of return. This was specifically the question that Dylan asked me about. He wanted to see how, what kind of hints I could offer on that or what direction you could receive from me on that question. And what the that's really what the announcement, the note, the hint that I gave is really focused on question three, and I'm going to make a note of that too for which questions on Taylor that I've really addressed. Okay, moving on. Number four, they go on to talk about the fact that preferred stock is a riskier investment than a bond. Yet companies have been known to issue preferred stock at a lower yield than they issue bonds. How can this be? Assuming investors are rational. Um, I don't know if any of you have any specific questions on that. That's kind of a general question that you guys can probably look up by just doing a little research on preferred stock. I think a lot of the potential response that you could make here would be the fact that preferred stock, despite the fact that it is riskier than a bond, has a lot of the same characteristics as a bond, preferred stock, right? It's 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 a little bit up in the hierarchy upon liquidation of a company as to when that those investments are paid back. Um, Preferred stock is similar in that it has regular dividends paid, which are similar to coupon payments. So there is a certain assurity that you're going to get income from the preferred stock in the form of regular dividends. Um, so that makes it similar to a bond, but I think the fact that preferred stock has so many characteristics that are similar to bonds, there is there is certainly a capability for bonds to have a higher yield than preferred stock. So, I'm sharing part of the answer with you right there, but I think if you do a little bit of research on preferred stock and its characteristics that are similar to bonds, then you could probably come up with an answer to that question without too much difficulty. Okay, let's see what else we got. Moving on, we've got number 5, estimate the cost of preferred stock. Okay. So based on the capital asset pricing model and valuations, dividend discount models and so forth, you've got a couple different means whereby you can estimate the cost of preferred stock. It says go back and redo question 3, including preferred stock as a financing source, assuming target weights are as follows. They say notes 5%, bonds 40, preferred 5, and equity 50. So they're just asking you, once you come up with a cost associated with preferred stock based on probably, I would suggest you use the dividend discount model to come up with a cost of preferred stock. Once you do that, then just rejig the weights around and use what they give here. Um, you know, Notes at 5%, bonds then at 40, preferred stock at 5, and then equity at 50. So, any questions on that? You guys pretty good with that idea? Okay, good. Number 6, what additional information would you like in order to make more informed estimates about the cost of equity and the cost of preferred stocks? Anything jump out at you about additional information you might need? Or do you think you're pretty good with what you have that's provided in the case and that you can run with that? Okay.
I think more information about the EPS growth rate would be useful.
Growth rate?
I thought you mean like an answer to that question. Sorry.
Yeah, on a dividend discount model, you mean then? Maybe?
For number 6,
Yes.
I don't know, like more information about the EPS growth rate as well as like the current market price of the stock.
Okay.
And then the new beta that is based on the lower level of the operating leverage.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, then you're sharing your thoughts on your answer really to the question.
Yeah.
Which I mean, yeah, I mean, I really don't mind you doing that. If the others hadn't really thought about those elements of potential additional information, I am not worried about that. to me, number 6, that's all conjecture. That's all opinion. That's information that you think you might like to see that might help you clarify your analysis of WACC, of cost of equity, cost of debt, cost of preferred stock, etc. But it's really only opinion. I mean, you are given enough data in the case write-up to answer all those questions. I guess it's just, it's really opinion on what additional information you might like to see to make more informed estimates, right? You're still able to make an estimate, right? I mean, Fabian, if you
Yeah,
if you didn't get the information that you're talking about, you could still make your estimates, you think, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I that's really kind of an opinion question. Um, I probably won't really have that one carry a tremendous amount of weight. So don't worry about that so much. I mean, I can throw out some additional thoughts in another hint on that one. But it probably would be, dividend payout rate, growth rate, that, the same ones that Fabian just mentioned. Um, so let's move on. Um, for number 7, then what would you guess is the market value of the firm's notes payable? Um, and Taylor has one long-term debt security outstanding with a coupon rate of 7%. It's a debenture issuing, I'm sorry, it's a debenture issue maturing in 10 years. Interest is paid semi-annually. Um, Determining that market value of that, you guys know how to value bonds, right? So if you got a bond with a coupon of 7%, but it pays semi-annually, that means that there's 2 payments a year at 3.5%, right? Assume that the face value is 1,000 always with bonds. So you should be able to do a present value calculation using a future value of 1,000, a 10-year or 20 semi-annual period maturity, right? Coupon payments of 7% annually, but really 3.5% semi-annually, right? Then you should be able to determine what the price is on that, doing a present value calculation. Make sense? Everybody good with that? Okay, let's move on. Part C, then the market value to book value ratio is 1.15. Calculate the market value of their stock. So if you got a book value and you know that the ratio, the market value to book value ratio is 1.115, then you should be able to backtrack and calculate the the missing element, which would be market value, right? If you calculate the book value, you calculate the market value. Good. Okay. Let's continue. Estimate Taylor's cost of capital, or required rate of return, assuming that the market values are consistent with the financing weights desired by management. And so you can go back and look at what you did for the weighted average cost of capital, and they're saying in parentheses here you can ignore that piece where they asked you to look at the value of preferred stock. So you take preferred stock back out of the WACC equation and go back and calculate their weighted average cost of capital based on all the other elements that are consistent with the desired financing of the company, which is stated up above. Everybody pretty good with that too? Okay, what else we got? Argue for using market values, determine a firm's required return. which is really as opposed to looking at book values and then do the opposite under Part B. So really, I mean, you've got a case for using either one in just about any instance. Market values are probably going to give you more up-to-date information on what the different securities involved in any company financing, particularly bonds, when you're looking at bonds, or if you're looking at preferred stock, you have a better idea of what those securities are actually trading for currently. So you might say something to the effect that market values are include more recent information, but that book values are historical and what the company incurred when they actually set up these original financing elements, meaning when they actually issued stock or when they actually issued bonds, et cetera. So that's really a preference, and also is a potential element of potential fluctuation between what current market values may be and what historical book values have been. Okay. Moving on, under 9, they are talking about apparently the 30% hurdle rate used by Taylor exceeds its actual cost of capital. So if 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 Taylor is evaluating potential projects to undertake, they're using a hurdle rate or a discount rate that's greater than the cost of capital. Okay. So then they go on to say, okay, let us suppose a company errs in the other direction and chooses a hurdle rate considerably less than its cost of capital. What difficulties could this cause? Anyone have any ideas on that? If you use a discount rate that's less than your cost of capital, what kind of problems do you think that might cause? I'm going to ask a few of you to give your ideas on your answer to this question right now, if anybody has any. Okay, not a lot of volunteers on that. What I'll say is that if you use a discount rate or a hurdle rate that's less than the cost of capital, you might actually, as a company, you might accept projects that are really not going to contribute to the company's future cash flow, future profit, or that are going to be a benefit. If you use a discount rate that's too low, and you end up getting present values, net present value results when you do your capital analysis, or you get internal rates of return that are higher than this lower discount rate, okay, then you might be accepting projects that aren't in reality that aren't really going to help your company long term. I know I've given you an answer there, but I think that's kind of like a lot of these other questions that are just really sort of opinion and really looking for your general thoughts as opposed to doing any specific calculation. But yeah, I mean, if you stop and think about what present value does and what net present value does, particularly those two types of calculations, the higher the discount rate applied to some future cash inflow, right? The higher discount rate you use, the lower the present value is going to be, right? Of any future cash flow. So once again, if your discount rate or your hurdle rate that you're using ends up being too low, then you're going to overinflate the present value of any future cash flows. So, if what your firm is actually spending to finance the company on a percentage basis is higher than the discount rate you are using, then yeah, you could very well be, taking in projects and beginning them and working on them and implementing them, and they're not going to be generating the cash flow that the company really needs, um, to continue to generate profit. So that's that one. Um, okay, West, it believes that the high cost of capital encourages managers to develop overly optimistic cash flow forecasts. Is a more accurate cost of capital estimate likely to reduce this bias, as he apparently thinks? That's entirely conjecture. I'll let you. I'm not going to talk about this one too much. I'm going to let you guys think about that. If using um, an inflated cost of capital or a lower hurdle rate or a lower cost of capital to evaluate, cash flow forecasts or uh, project project benefits from potential projects undertaken. If those would lead to, if those would lead to a bias either way, either you know um, either potentially allowing for more um, optimistic cash flows or maybe inflated cash flow estimates uh, from future projects or not. Um, I think that people just generally that might be, you know, championing a project might inflate their cash flow estimates, because maybe their section would be the one, their section of the company would be the one doing the most work on a project, or that would potentially gain the notoriety of success if it was, if it was implemented successfully, or if it was, a certain manager's pet project. Okay, um, that some of these cash flow then estimates, cash flow forecasts, or the forecasted cash benefits from projects might be overly inflated or might be overly optimistic is a question here. Words exactly, they use the words overly optimistic cash flow forecast. It might encourage that sort of thing. So yeah, I think those are some potential answers that you could maybe offer here, and we can go from there. But once again, that's kind of an opinionated question, and you guys can take that and run with those ideas and give us your thoughts on those. Um, okay, and then 10, you got parts A and B. Part A, suppose that West will present a summary of his findings to senior management. Would you recommend that he present his estimate Taylor's required return? I think this is the dumbest question of all time. I saw this and I just couldn't believe it's being asked, but please go ahead and answer it. But should the estimates um, of the required cost of capital be as a percentage with one decimal place, or a percentage with two decimal places? I mean, who cares, right? I mean, if you are going through the calculations, um, I think if you present information with more decimal places, that would obviously represent a detailed, a specific percentage, and would sort of lend the reader of the information to believe that you have very precise information. Well, I'm not sure you have that here. I mean, if this question wasn't here, and some of your some of you as students presented your information on the calculations, cost of capital as rounded percentages as XX. And then maybe some of you presented it as with one decimal place as XX point X, or some of you went, all the way to the final level of detail they discuss here at XX point XX with 2 percentage points, um, 2 decimal places rather. Then, I mean, I wouldn't be deducting anything for those that didn't, you know, present the 2 decimal places. Or, I certainly would deduct for any students that did present the 2 decimal places in their numbers. I mean, I, you know, I guess in parens they're saying keep in mind that, you know, that the hot shot here, I guess the chairman or Unruh or whatever his name is, he's likely to be questioned thoroughly, um, or the West is likely to be questioned thoroughly by Unruh, who appears skeptical. That's kind of funny too. But I guess the whole question is, you know, do you think that by presenting more detailed estimates of these cost of capital numbers and so forth, and give more exacting numbers and include, 2 percentage points, would that cause more skepticism by an audience or by the chairman of the board here, this Unruh fellow, or whoever? I mean, that'll be your answer to make. I think it's kind of silly as a question, but I guess there's some validity to the question. I mean, I get the whole thing is that you think, or would you think that the chairman here, this Unruh guy, would he be put off by seeing more detailed information and seeing two decimal points uh, in these percentages, or do you think that just simply, you know, presenting them as round percentages with no decimal points at all is sufficient? I'll leave that to you guys to answer, and I'm probably not going to give anybody uh, any wrong answer deductions for number 10A, certainly, um, unless you just don't answer the question. Please answer, but just give me your opinion. Then B, would you recommend that Wes use market or book values in his presentation? So that goes back to one of the earlier questions on, using market or book. I gave you some ideas on using market, um, because it might contain some more up-to-date information on, the pricing of securities, because obviously the pricing of securities is, fluctuates over the terms of their maturities. Um, but yeah, I mean, there might be some some recommendations that, go ahead and use book, and maybe because those are historical, those have been in place longer, and that and also that market values do fluctuate, and sometimes they can fluctuate quite quickly and quite significantly. So maybe using market, even though it is the most up to date information, um, might not be the best thing to do. So, I maybe I tip my hand on some potential answers there for 10B, but you know, please do answer those questions and give me your thoughts on those. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is kind of an interesting case. I think some of these questions are a little silly, like this 10A. I think is silly, but I guess it is valid, and you know, I but I think that the real heart of the matter is, determining weighted average cost of capital, especially, um, the WAC calculations that we've been going through the last week and a half. Hopefully, it'll help you there. Um, Understanding the capital asset pricing model is important too. Um, so yeah, so generally, I think this is a pretty interesting case. a good case to work on. So, anybody have any further questions or thoughts on this case that you might want me to? Everybody pretty good with these ideas now? Everybody good with the questions? Yeah, I didn't really have a lot today. I just wanted to go through these questions and especially uh, the announcement that I posted for Dylan and then for the rest of you, obviously. So you understand where I was coming from on the ideas of calculating WAC. Fabian, thanks for your input on the on the market rate. Um, that using that method is certainly going to be acceptable. The thing I really want to see is that you guys do use the process of the WAC formula, um, take as much of the data that is supplied in the case itself to work through those calculations, and calculating the weighted average cost of capital is the real key. And obviously, you get the WAC by calculating the cost of debt, the cost of equity, and under that one specific question, the cost of preferred stock. Okay. So if you guys get those are the questions that, to be honest, I'll be looking at the most, closely and probably grading with the most value on this case. So those are my hints to you on that. But yeah, I mean, if there's really nothing else, I'm going to let all you guys let you go. I'll see some of you later on. Actually, all of you later on. Everybody that's with me here today is also in the 470 cat class that meets in a couple hours. So I'll see you all in a couple hours. Okay.
Cool.
So
See
on
you
that
later.
note, I'm going to let everybody go. If you do have any questions or if anything comes up on this case, and you get stuck on any questions or problems or anything seems unclear, just please shoot me an email or post to the course Q&A, and I'll get back to you on it as soon as I can. Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody, you're very welcome. See you in a couple hours, everybody.
See you later.
Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.